participated and have done their part on so many levels. Instead of putting the responsibility squarely on the cities in general and specifically in New York City, we must have the responsibility for care to have the national decompression strategy that is deserved of this crisis we are facing. We must help our fellow arrivals to be a participant in the American dreams. And I have described New York City as a city of yes so often, but that spirit of innovation and inclusiveness is foundational to this entire nation. America is a country of yes, not only New York City. Yes to immigrants, yes to new housing, jobs, and opportunities, yes to the can-do spirit that built our great nation. These asylum seekers came here looking for the American dream, a chance to work and build successful lives. Let's give them a fighting chance at making this dream a reality. And that fighting chance comes with our business community. And we cannot thank them enough for what they have done, as I indicated and as the governor alluded to. And leading that challenge on so many fronts is my good friend and a great New Yorker, Kathy Wow from the partnership. Kathy.
I just want to say that the business community of the city and state is totally behind Governor Hochul and Mayor Adams and what they are trying to do. We're trying to send the same message to Washington that we need help now. And we also, this is not just a humanitarian issue. This is an economic issue. We are a world global center, capital of finance, of business, of innovation, and that's for one reason, because we are a welcoming place. New York has welcomed immigrants historically, and they have built a great city and state for us, and from here they've gone on to the whole country to build a great country. Our immigration policy is failing us today. The city and states around the country are trying to make up for it. We really need national leadership, and we're so grateful for our own members of our congressional delegation who are making that effort. The business community stands behind you. One of the leaders of that effort, I'm going to introduce now, is our host today, Danny Meyer, the executive chair and founder of Union Square Hospitality. So, Danny.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Union Square Events. I want to thank my team for putting this together on very short notice, but the reason we had such short notice is that Governor Hochul was able to take this initiative very, very quickly and say, we have an opportunity. We have a two-sided problem. As Mayor Adams just said, on one hand, we have a humanitarian crisis. And as you've heard from Kathy Wild and also from Governor Hochul, we have a business crisis, which has been going on since even before COVID, which is that there are not enough talented workers who have a heart for hospitality, who have a work ethic for all the jobs that we could make available. The hospitality industry is the largest single employer outside of government in the United States. The same thing is true in the state of New York City, the state of New York and in the city of New York. If you look at all the jobs that are associated with hospitality, the people who produce the food, the people who cook the food, the people who serve the food, the people who grew the food, the people who have everything to do with it, we have a solution to another problem looking for a solution. If we had a situation, imagine if for all the job openings that we have had that does not permit our industry to work at its greatest potential. If we had a situation where we learned that 5,000 people came in yesterday who wanted to work, we would say, hallelujah, sign us up. We will put recruiting tables out immediately, and we will do the best job we can on two fronts. Number one, to train those people. And I'm here to tell you that the united hospitality industry is as united as it could possibly be, wanting to help solve this problem. During COVID, which brought our industry to its knees because we were not permitted to do what we do, we couldn't welcome people into our restaurants. What could we do? We banded together as a community to help each other. 26,000 restaurants in New York City, probably 500,000 restaurants in America, banded together and said, how can we help each other? Well, we have learned to work together, and I will tell you right now that this industry wants to provide a solution to this crisis. And when we do provide that solution, it's going to help the economy, and it's going to be the right thing to do. Here's what we commit to. We commit to providing job training for people who want to work. As a community, as a business, our whole industry wants to do this right now. Number two, when we train people, and I will tell you that many of the jobs that are open today do not take more than 5 to 6 weeks of training for someone who, as I said, has a heart for hospitality and a good work ethic. In 5 to 6 weeks of training, which we will commit to helping with in facilities all over the state, all over the city, we will then commit to hiring people. And I'll take it a step further. If we could play a role in actually having somebody on their path to legal asylum who proves that they want to be a great citizen because they were a great worker, we will participate in that program as well. So the last thing I want to say is that yesterday, as luck would have it, I was on a chat at a fireside chat at the National Restaurant Association show in Chicago, which is the biggest gathering of the hospitality industry in our country. It happens every year in May. And on the stage with me was the president and CEO of the NRA, the other NRA, the National Restaurant Association, Michelle Korsma. And I took the opportunity during one of her questions to do what I've learned so well from some of the great politicians in this room, and I answered her question with the answer I wanted to give. And I started talking about this crisis and this opportunity. 4,000 people in the audience. When I brought this up, 4,000 members of the hospitality industry rose up with a standing ovation. And then the president and CEO of the National Restaurant Association said, let us know what we can do to help. So we are unified. Look who's in this room right now. We have the greatest delegation we could possibly have. We're committed, and we want to be any kind of help we can. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce you to somebody who took a leadership role and has taken a leadership role well before COVID, but certainly I would say the degree to which the New York City restaurant community got back on its feet is because of the leadership of Andrew Ridgey, who's the executive director of the New York City Hospitality Alliance. Andrew.
Thank you, Danny. Governor, Mayor, all the leaders here, thank you. You know, we always hear it. New York City is a melting pot for people from around the world. And nowhere is that better reflected than in our city and our state's restaurants. The cultures, the backgrounds, the flavor, the cuisine, people all around the world make it world-renowned. You know, we've always provided opportunities to immigrants, people that are seeking better lives, including my great-grandparents that escaped persecution, came here to New York City. A lot of hard work, and at opening bakeries, cafes, right here in Brooklyn, then in Queens. We know immigrants are the backbone of the hospitality industry. They're essential to the fabric of our communities, but also vital not just to the local, but also the national economy. That's why this issue is personal to me and for I know millions of other people. Now today, like Danny said, I represent the city's hospitality industry, the restaurant industry right here in New York. And every single day, I hear from restaurateurs in neighborhoods throughout the 5 boroughs. They are struggling to find the people they need to run their restaurants. It makes it tougher for everyone. They can't find people. They want to fill their job openings. Being short-staffed hurts their businesses, and it also hurts the consumer experience. But to address the staffing shortage, what restaurateurs say, they need to be able to provide lawful work to the recently arrived migrants that are seeking asylum. So they can fill those job openings, they can run their restaurants, they can stimulate our economy, but also so these folks can support themselves and support their families and not have to rely on government. But to allow this, we need the federal government to act now. We need them because we cannot wait any longer. While they debate, people want to work. Our restaurateurs want to provide those work opportunities. And as the governor and the mayor said, New York has stepped up in a tremendous way. Enormous responsibility, caring for these folks, caring for their family. Now it is time for the federal government to step up and authorize these local businesses to be able to hire the asylum seekers. We do have really big challenges on our hands, but by delaying and slowing down work authorization for thousands of people that are already here in America, it only serves to exacerbate those challenges that exist. But there's an easy solution to address one of these challenges. Authorize work authorization quickly. We need it now. It's time to permit it. So we're urging the Biden administration, Congress, all the folks, rise above whatever the politics are and let's unite around a policy that should all unite us. Honest work, delicious meals, great restaurants, the American dream. It's not only about what's doing morally right, it's also about what is economically right, and in the case of the restaurant industry, it's about what's gastronomically right. So I want to thank you all. We urge you, authorize these folks to be able to work and help support New York and our country. So with that, I want to thank everyone again, and I want to bring up Mario Salento, the president of the New York State AFL-CIO.
Thank you. Thank you. The labor movement strongly supports making the temporary protective status as expansive as possible because we want to help these men and women to achieve the American dream. And we know that the foundation of that dream is being able to provide a better life and a better future for your family. We also know that with the status comes additional protections in the workplace. We can protect these men and women from being exploited, whether it's wage and hour laws, whether it's safety and health standards. So we owe them that. We owe them that responsibility. And the last piece is this, and I think this is the most important. When these men and women go to work, they earn that paycheck, they pay income taxes. And on those taxes, it allows them to become positive contributors to our economy, positive contributors to our tax base, which means that 19 million New Yorkers prosper and benefit as a result of that. Why? Because our local and state governments are now better able to provide all of the public services that every single New Yorker relies on. Education, healthcare, sanitation, transportation, law enforcement, firefighters, on and on and on. Productive members of our society, helping all of us. We all win. And that's why on behalf of the New York State AFL-CIO, on behalf of the entire labor movement in this state, 2.5 million members from Buffalo to Long Island. First, I want to thank Governor Hochul. Thank you, Governor, for leading this effort. The labor movement in this state will work with you in any capacity necessary to let us achieve our goals. And we'll also certainly work with the mayor and all of our friends in the business community as well. We have an opportunity for all of the men and women who risked everything that they have to come to this country, to give themselves and their families a better life. We have an opportunity to give them a standard of living and a quality of life that they can be proud of. But more than that, if we are successful in that endeavor, we will raise the standard of living and quality of life for 19 million New Yorkers. And that's something we can all strive for and be proud of. Thank you very much. And with that, thank you. I want to introduce Yvert Rada, who's an asylum speaker, and he will speak and close the program.
Speech will be translated live by Manuel Castro, Commissioner of the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs.
Muy buenos días a todos.
Good morning, everyone.
Gracias por la oportunidad de permitirme contar mi historia. Mi nombre es Iber Rada, tengo 24 años.
My name is Iber Rada. I am 24 years old.
Emprendí el gran viaje, como muchos y miles de mis compañeros lo han hecho, atravesando la temida cebla del Darién.
I took on this journey like many of us have done, crossing the fearful jungle of El Darién.
Y seis países más, el cual nos permitió llegar a esta gran ciudad como Nueva York, que nos recibió con las puertas, con los brazos abiertos.
And I crossed 6 other countries to arrive here to New York, who has opened the doors for us.
Actualmente tengo 20 días, al tercer día de llegar a Nueva York, la organización sin fines de lucro NICE nos recibió con los brazos abiertos.
I have only been here for 20 days. On the third day that I arrived, I came to NICE, who opened their doors.
Es una organización muy importante que nos está ayudando a nosotros los inmigrantes que llegamos aquí sin recursos.
It's an organization that has been helping immigrants like myself who have no other way to go.
El cual nos está enseñando cuáles son nuestros derechos y nuestros deberes.
We are learning there what are our rights and also our responsibilities.
Actualmente estoy haciendo la preparación, ya tengo el taller de demolición y el framing.
I have been engaging in their training. I have now a license to do many of these jobs that are required.
Y estoy en curso de OSHA. El miércoles ya es mi graduación, están todos cordialmente invitados.
I am in the OSHA training. I am graduating this Wednesday. All of you are welcome to join me.
Quisiera recalcar que muchos de nosotros los inmigrantes necesitamos apoyo. Muchas gracias a todos por tratar de ayudarnos a todos. Quisiera
I just want to say that, thank you for all the help that you have brought us, given us. Many of us are in need of support right now.
Ya que venimos para acá, somos gente trabajadora, la cual venimos para acá.
We are hardworking people, and we came here to do that.
A buscar un mejor futuro para nuestras familias dignas y queremos aportar mucho a la gran ciudad de Nueva York.
We came here to live a dignified life, but also to contribute back to the city that has brought us so much.
Solamente queremos que nos apoyen, queremos pedirle al presidente Biden de parte de nosotros los inmigrantes que nos ayuden con permiso de trabajo para seguir contribuyendo a la gran ciudad de Nueva York.
I just want to say that on behalf of migrants, we ask President Biden to give us the ability to work, to give us a right to work, so that we can contribute back to the city of New York and others that have opened the door for us to be here.
Y así poder tener una vida digna que nos merecemos como seres humanos todos.
So that we can have a dignified life that we all deserve as human beings.
Y poder ayudar a nuestras familias, que es lo que más queremos, y poder seguir adelante con nuestros caminos.
So that we can provide for our families and continue forward in our journey.
Muchas gracias a todos por su cordial atención. Quisiera agregarle sinceramente las gracias a la gran organización NICE.
Thank you so much for all of you for your help, and to NICE for all that it has done for us.
Realmente cada día se enfrentan a miles de migrantes que llegamos aquí buscando un mejor futuro y realmente nos reciben con los brazos abiertos y de verdad que hay que agradecerles a todos. De verdad que muchas gracias.
Thank you so much for helping us with open arms for all those who are arriving here in New York City recently.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated while the governor and the mayor take questions from the media.
Just want to quickly mention that Ebert is a member of NICE, which is one of 12 asylum seeker support centers that, thanks to Mayor Adams, we had set up across the 5 boroughs to support newly arrived immigrants. And much like I came with my family as a 5-year-old, Ebert just crossed the border with 2 young daughters. I believe, ¿cuántos años tiene? No, sus niñas. No, la edad. 1 year and 11 months old. So he came here for opportunity, and he shared with me that he was very nervous, but wanted to speak on behalf of his daughters so they can have a future like I had one here myself.
Hi, Bernadette. Long time no see. We miss you in Albany.
Missed you too. So I was wondering, when you're talking about judges and not having enough judges in the state of New York, where are you saying that you want them to be sent up from? And then also separately, your request to use the Floyd Bennett field. What's the holdup in that, and who have you been talking to in the federal government about that request?
Well, the request went in last Friday. I've had conversations with the number of people at the White House, Secretary Mayorkas, as recently as 2 days ago, and they are processing the request. It involves, it's a former military field, but it is now operated by the National Park Service. So, we're waiting for an answer back on that fairly soon. I also asked them to survey all federal properties, not just that one field, but tell us what else you have in the state of New York to help us literally find temporary shelter. So that is what we're working on. And your first question? Judges. Judges can come from all over. Judges can actually do remote work. This is what happened during the pandemic. There are judges, immigration judges in Buffalo who've been deployed to the border, so there is mobility among immigration judges, and we're calling upon those who, as the border starts to slow down, if that's what's happening, then there should be an excess of judges. Send them to New York or other immigration judges from other states that are not having to bear the same burden. So we think that that's very doable. Send the support staff. If they don't come in person, see if we can do a mechanism for remote hearings. Do it on Zoom.
I wonder if I have a two-part question. The first question is this. You talked about the fact that you were disappointed by some of the resistance that you've experienced in counties around the state. I know that Erie County has stepped up, your home county, but what are you saying to the county executives about your disappointment, and how are you getting them to decide to accept immigrants to come to their places? And then I have a second question.
Well, I have another call with the counties this afternoon, and I look forward to sharing with them my sentiment that based on what I saw here this morning, any rejection of migrants coming is also hurting their employers. And in rural areas, it's hurting their farmers. It's hurting their small businesses. It's hurting their main streets. So I just want to help enlighten them that I understand hesitation of the unknown, but these individuals are coming with full financial support backing them, so there's not a burden financially on the local communities. I'm not sure that's understood by everybody, so I'll clarify that again. But also, they all represent a lot of people who are employers. And if everybody stays in New York City, that's great for New York City because the economy will just be on fire once everybody has that work authorization, is trained, and can take the thousands of jobs here. But there are great opportunities in these communities all over the state of New York. So I'm going to continue the education process. And I am grateful to people like Mark Polenkars and others who understand that the population of Buffalo went up because of refugees going to Buffalo over the last few decades. That is a way we can stem population loss, build the economy, and build for the next generation.
Governor, my follow-up question is this. What is the resistance in Washington to doing this? You seem to indicate that the president could do it by signing an executive order. Why won't this happen?
There are different views on how it can happen. There's some argument that it has to happen with an action of Congress. And a lot of this is driven by the 1986 Immigration Reform and Control Act, which has employer sanctions and has a process for asylum seekers and legal work status. We're simply saying, I understand that is what is written on the books, but we need your help to adapt to a circumstance which has reached a crisis situation. So we're working with the White House. We've not received a flat no. I want to continue working with them and helping them understand, as you heard here today, the great opportunity to change the whole narrative around these individuals and create a whole welcoming sense around them, not just here in the city, but across the country. This could be a game changer for other communities that are resistant right now. When they have a steady work supply coming with them, it all changes.
Yeah, for the governor first and then Mayor Adams. Governor, how are you coordinating with the mayor to get migrants to other parts of the city? Is there now a coordinated plan? And then for the mayor and perhaps you, have you reached out to the Catholic dioceses around New York State because schools are closing and there are empty available buildings?
We have been doing surveys all across the state, particularly state-owned properties and schools. There's some schools that have empty dorms. There are some schools that are not reopening. There are former correctional facilities, which are not ideal, but that is space if we can change the environment. There's former psychiatric centers. There are facilities we can use large parking lots. So my team has been embedded with the mayor's team. We have an emergency operations team stood up. I have an 8 a.m. call every morning with them and an evening call. I convene my entire cabinet in our emergency operations center in Albany saying, survey your properties. Is there a barn that is housing salt right now we can clear out? Is there a facility, a warehouse that has DMV license plates? So I'm pushing everybody saying, if the alternative is sleeping on the streets of New York, we can find space for these people. So we have been embedded, talking about logistics, also trying to give an early warning to communities where individuals are coming next and try to take down the temperature sometimes. So I think that's been successful. But the mayor's team has been extraordinary in what they've had to do, and we're really pleased that we could bring not just financial resources, but know-how in dealing with crises. We are very experienced in crisis management, as is the mayor's team. You bring the two together, you have all the brain power you need in the same room. Mayor, do you want to address it?
We did communicate with Cardinal Dolan, and I just really want to thank him. He did an analysis of the schools that were closed, and we're in good conversation. Catholic Charities, they have been extremely supportive, and we're hoping that we could line up some of the properties that are available. My chief of staff has been doing an analysis of all of the properties that we have that's available in the city. We really, at this point, cannot leave anything on the table. But we need to be clear on this also. This is not sustainable. The response can't be, let's find another room somewhere. This is just not sustainable. And having the right to work would allow us to take some pressure off of the situation so we can move people out of care of the state and city and move them into the stability that they're looking for. But our plan can't be that let's continue to find a room somewhere. That is not a sustainable plan. When you get 5,800 people a week, do the math. You don't have to be a math major to know 5,800 people a week, close to 3,000 a month. These are real numbers, and it's going to impact every service in this city. And so what we are rolling out today is one phase of something that we can do in the short term to take the pressure off of the city, and that's what the governor has been coordinating with us, identifying locations and places, but the plan can't be, let's just try to find another location somewhere. There needs to be a dual plan. Finding a location to deal with the emergency, but this city and state cannot stay in emergency mode. That is not the way you manage your crisis. You stabilize the situation, and then you improve on it. We can't stay in emergency mode. That is not how you manage a crisis.
Governor, you're leaning on the federal government to ask for permission for some of the individuals to work in an expedited fashion. You had raised the possibility in terms of shelter that the SUNY and CUNY system might be able to come up with some inventory. I was wondering if there's an update on that, and can you lean on them to come up with that more quickly?
I'm sorry, leaning on SUNY and CUNY to come.
SUNY and CUNY, do they have facilities, available space? I know it has been discussed, but it seems like we haven't had an update on where that is exactly.
We've been doing that assessment. Actually, the timing is very good because a lot of the students have left now for the summer. So there are temporary dorms through August, but we are looking at the long-range situation, what happens in August. So that's the strategy that we're trying to develop now. If there's work authorization in place by then, it's a good dynamic. If not, what's going to happen. So, but we are looking again. The mayor's correct. Temporary We can find a lot of temporary spaces. There'll be tents going up in parking lots of state facilities and state-directed facilities. That's not ideal. Nobody wants little kids and adults in a tent, but they can't live on a street either. This is where we're at. I also do want to make a point that there are some voices on the right that are trying to say that, you know, this effort here would take away jobs from other people. I welcome them. Anybody who feels that way to come to Union Square today, go up to a farm. I'll drive you there personally if you're looking for a job, because there are so many jobs unfilled right now. So I want to take that narrative and push it right back at everybody, because that is false.
For Mayor Adams, how are you, sir? The former school on Staten Island has remained open as an emergency shelter, while others around the city have closed. Why has that been the case, and how long do you intend for that to remain open?
The school building on Staten Island was a vacant building that was in the process of our understanding of being demolished. It's a vacant building. We cannot afford to have vacant buildings that are not on the inventory that the Chief of Staff has put together to see if it's usable. The other 20 structures, they were self-standing gyms. They were not inside the school building, self-standing gyms. We said they were respite locations, because when you get in 900 people in one day, you have to figure out how to move them during an emergency so that you can find a location. As soon as we open a location, we are finding that location to be filled. We opened the Roosevelt Hotel a few days ago. 800 rooms were filled, or 800 people went in that location at a capacity a little over 1,000. That's how smooth and quick this is moving. And those who have never managed a crisis, it's easy to analyze how to manage a crisis. I've managed a crisis throughout my law enforcement career. I know how to handle an emergency situation, and there are steps that you have to take. That is what we're doing. That's why, unlike other cities, you don't see people and families sleeping on streets, because we've been able to manage this crisis. But it reaches a point where it becomes unmanageable. And we have stated it clearly, there is no more room in our city. And we're looking at every available space, including a vacant school building that was not being used.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Two questions, please. Right here. Firstly, is there any limit at all to the number of migrants you're willing to shelter?
I'm sorry, any?
Is there any limit at all to the number of migrants you're willing to shelter?
That we would allow in the shelter?
Yes.
I think that what many people are not really recognizing, we're going to fulfill the obligations that are laid out by law. We're going to make sure that we be as humane as possible. But clearly, we've reached the breaking point, and we have to continue to reach out to our federal government to address this national problem. And so we're going to continue to do our job here as the mayor to monitor and to really manage this situation we're in.
Finally, the majority of these asylum seekers will ultimately lose their claims, statistics show. And my question is, for the mayor or the governor, what do you think should happen to them once they lose their claims? And at that point, they'll lose their work permits also.
The national government deals with that. You know, we know the city and state, we do not handle immigration policies. So it's not up to us to make the determination how they're carried out. We have an obligation. This burden is placed on us. That's why we're calling for assistance in the national government. Governor, you want to? Yep.
No, I concur with the mayor on that. They have their processes of what happens when someone has their asylum claim denied. And so we're just dealing with the crisis, the humanitarian crisis that is right at our doorstep right now. So that's down the road, and we'll let the federal government deal with that. All right, thank you, everybody, for coming. We appreciate your attention on this important issue.
That concludes our program. Thank you so much for coming.